I remember hearing a woman in our community say something once. It stayed with me. She said, "I don't think I stopped loving my husband. I think I just started feeling emotionally alone in my marriage." And I remember all of us sitting with that for a moment, because I believe what she was trying to describe was something many women experience long before they have the language for it. The quiet shift somewhere along the way where someone slowly begins feeling hurt more often than emotionally supported. Resentment rarely begins the way people imagine it does. It doesn't usually begin with hatred. And most of the time, it doesn't begin with two people wanting distance from each other. It often begins much more subtly than that. Perhaps a need that wasn't communicated clearly, or a season where one person quietly started caring more emotionally. Right? When the children started coming, the babies. Moments that felt lonely internally. Right? And that's usually after having the baby. But they were moments never fully talked about. And little by little, without either person fully recognizing it, something begins changing underneath the relationship. And it's not love, because you will still love. It's connection. When emotions remain unspoken for too long, people often stop feeling understood long before they stop caring. And that's what makes resentment so dangerous. It doesn't appear all at once. It quietly shapes the way two people begin experiencing each other. And many couples don't recognize it while it's happening. They only recognize it once patience feels thinner, affection feels harder to access, or emotional distance has already started. It's already started settling into places where closeness used to live. And sometimes it takes hearing someone else describe it. A conversation, a moment online on social media, you see something, or language that suddenly gives clarity to something they haven't fully processed before. To realize something in me has been heavier than I thought. So get comfortable and let's step into another honest conversation together.
No. Ooh, that's better, right, babe?
Yeah!
Yeah. She founded an architectural concrete company.
He founded a $100 million clothing company.
She took the world by storm as a social media star.
He took the world by storm as a famous serial entrepreneur.
Together we started a business.
And had babies.
Now we're figuring out the best ways to do both.
Join us as we learn from other entrepreneurs going through the same life struggles.
As they share their life hacks about success, love, kids,
and everything in between.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Becoming Unshakable, the Legacy Conversations bonus series, a special edition brought to you by the Entrepreneur Parents Podcast, a community of strong families building unshakable legacies. I'm your host, Ildiko Ferenczi, and before we step into today's conversation, I want to briefly revisit something we talked about last week. We talked about emotional overwhelm, the invisible load so many people are carrying internally. How easy it could be to move through life constantly giving, constantly responding, constantly holding everything together, especially as mothers, as fathers too, without fully realizing how much pressure has been accumulating underneath the surface. And one of the things we touched on was the importance of emotional awareness before emotional disconnection begins to form. Because when emotional overload goes unaddressed for too long, it doesn't simply disappear. It often starts showing up in the relationship, in communication, the way we communicate with each other, in your patience with each other, in emotional distance even. And that leads us directly into today's conversation, because today we're stepping into something many people feel but aren't always able to name clearly. It's resentment. It doesn't have to be the loud kind or the explosive kind. It's usually the quiet kind that builds gradually over time. And before we dive in, I just want to say thank you for being here, for leaning into conversations that require honesty, for choosing to grow in areas that aren't always easy to look at. And that matters more than you realize, not just to yourself, but to your family, your children, and your legacy. Let's begin here. Resentment is not something that appears out of nowhere. It's built layer by layer from moments that weren't addressed, needs that weren't expressed. Perhaps it was help around the house, emotional support, protection from sometimes people around you, people that are close to you. You want your husband to stand up for you and it didn't happen. It could be anything. But it's support that wasn't received in a way that it was needed. And over time, those layers create something internal. Perhaps some feelings of anger or sadness, hurt. But one thing is for sure. There will be distance. And it can look like this. You're doing what needs to be done, showing up, taking care of your home, your family, the children, all the responsibilities. And at first, it all feels manageable, right? It feels meaningful and you're all in on it. But over time, something begins to shift. You start noticing what you're carrying and you start noticing what isn't being shared, what you're holding, and what isn't being acknowledged. And you don't always say anything because it doesn't feel like the right moment. And you don't want to create tension. That's not what you want to do. You don't want to argue. You tell yourself that it's not really worth bringing up right now. And the funny thing is that something inside you is keeping count. And eventually it shows up. It shows up in different ways, your tone, your patience, in the way you respond to something that on its own wouldn't have felt this heavy before. And this is a good conversation to have because resentment is something that has come up by couples in our community occasionally. Not that often, but every once in a while, and it's a great conversation. And it's something I've seen in very real, very emotional ways by women around us. I remember hearing a woman speak a few years ago, and her share went incredibly viral. She was holding a newborn baby, completely overwhelmed, crying uncontrollably. You could see she was going through it. Her nose was red. Her face was red and wet from tears. She had so much resentment in that moment, and she was breaking down, mostly about sleep and exhaustion, and how her life changed since this baby. She looked like she felt so alone, and she wanted to be the person that she was before. And I'll be honest, it stirred something deeply in me. Because at that same time, I was walking through one of the hardest seasons of my life after receiving one of the most devastating diagnoses a person could ever receive. And I remember listening to her. She was holding that beautiful newborn baby in her arms, and I remember watching and feeling this overwhelming thought rise up inside of me. If only I had her health, I would feel like I had everything. I was angry. Because from where I was standing at that moment, the ability to simply be healthy enough to hold my children and care for my family and just move through ordinary life. Maybe even do a photo shoot or something. It felt unbelievably precious. And I'd be so grateful. Even to have just a couple hours sleep. If I had my health and I could have a normal life. And I remember having to step away and really pray about it because I wanted to understand what she was experiencing beneath the emotion. And I didn't want to be angry at her. I still feel bad because I remember how angry I was at her, and she was just overwhelmed. She was just going through something. And I was angry because I would do anything to trade places with her. I would be so grateful. And I didn't want to judge it. I didn't want to judge her or dismiss her. But I wanted to truly understand it because I know that pain can look very different depending on the season someone is walking through. And sometimes what overwhelms one person is something another person would have given anything to carry. Right? And I had to pray about it so I could understand. Because for me, I had this fear inside, and that was during the time when I had to give it all to God. I remember giving everything to God. I was the happiest because every moment was a gift. And I just remember feeling so darn angry with her. And that perspective stayed with me because it reminded me of something important. Sometimes what we feel in a moment is not the full truth of what we're standing in, right? And she later, I didn't follow her. I didn't track her. I was too angry. I was like, oh, girl, you got to wake up and just count your blessings. I remember that. But honestly, I prayed for her. I prayed for her healing. I prayed, God, please show her the blessing, this beautiful blessing that she probably prayed for in her arms. Please let her see through the, what is it? So the enemy will put up these lenses and make you just see the negative and the bad. And I know that it's hard. It's a season. It is hard. Trust me, I understand. It was very tough, especially going through what I was going through. But I had to put on the different lenses. I had to look. I could have gone to that place, but I chose not to. Through, of course, the grace of God, through God's precious love for me. He wrapped me up. And sometimes when we're going through this resentment, overwhelm, all the things, we need to just take a moment to step back, to recognize the weight, but also see the blessing, not to dismiss the feeling, but to bring clarity to it. You understand? There's a difference. And I understand. Everybody's journey is different. Resentment is often the result of unprocessed emotional accumulation. It forms when effort is given repeatedly without acknowledgement. Needs are present but not clearly expressed. If we're tired, we're exhausted, we need to ask for help. That's what our partner is there for, right? Our spouse is there for that. It forms when support feels inconsistent or misaligned. And when those patterns continue, the nervous system begins to register something important. This isn't balanced. There's an internal imbalance, and that creates emotional tension over time. And this becomes especially important when we talk about the postpartum season. That came up a lot because the transition into parenthood is one of the most significant emotional and relational adjustments a couple will ever experience. Everything changes at once: sleep, identity, responsibility, routine. The emotional dynamic of the relationship, it all changes. And from a psychological and biological standpoint, a woman is not simply adjusting to having a baby. She's recovering physically. Whether natural or a C-section, that is a serious surgery, my friends. She's shifting hormonally, carrying immense emotional and mental load, often while receiving very little rest. And one of the greatest sources of tension during this season is the gap between what one person is experiencing and what the other person fully understands, because many couples are deeply committed to each other. So there's love, but they're unprepared for how intense this transition can actually feel. And when one partner feels overwhelmed, unseen, unsupported, or emotionally alone for too long, resentment can begin to build quietly underneath the surface. And it's not because they don't love their marriage or their family. It's because their system has been carrying more than it has the space to process. So much more. They've been carrying so much. And this is why support matters so much during postpartum. And it's not performative. It's not that performance of support, this big, grand gesture of support. It's not a performance. It's not occasional help. It's not what someone needs during this time. What they need is consistent presence, emotional attentiveness, partnership. It's time to lean into the marriage. That's what's needed. Listen, when someone feels deeply supported during one of the most vulnerable seasons of their life, connection strengthens, trust will deepen, and the relationship becomes a place of safety. And what mama is going through won't feel like they're living in survival. if they feel safe. That's what we were seeing in the video. That viral video. And it went viral. So many women were connecting to this woman. And I remember, I'll never forget how angry I was. I had to pray about it. And I've also seen another narrative that could be very compelling. I've seen it. I saw this go viral. Oh my gosh, about a week ago. It was very compelling. And it was dangerous for women that were in resentment. It was when someone's in their overwhelmed state. And then there's that idea, if I just removed the pressure, everything would feel better. And it showed up in a story where someone said, I feel lighter now. I have more time. I feel like myself again. I'm working out. Look at me. And I understand why that resonates, because what's being described is relief. But relief is not always the same as resolution. Okay, she had a divorce. That's what happened. That's what she was talking about. And there was probably a lot of layers and a lot of events that happened before that. Now she has all this free time. She's in the best shape of her life. And it's dangerous to listen to for someone that's going through resentment, because she's only sharing one side of the story. She's not sharing how painful it is for her children to go through divorce, how painful it is to go through divorce as a mother of children. And she's only talking about the highlight reel, and that's dangerous. What created the pressure in the first place to divorce, to the big decision, it was never actually addressed. It was simply removed. And that's where we have to be careful, because if the root isn't understood, the pattern doesn't disappear, it just changes form. Before you reach for that coffee, consider this. What if the energy boost you're looking for isn't in your cup, but in your cells? I challenge you to swap your morning coffee for Shilajit by Symbiotica. And here's what can happen. No crash, no jitters, just clean, sustained energy, plus mental clarity and trace minerals that our bodies actually need, that are actually starving for, to be honest. This isn't just a supplement. It's an ancient adaptogen sourced from the Himalayas that supports mitochondrial function, stamina, and overall vitality. Your coffee never did that. Okay, let's just be honest. Try it for a week and tell me your body doesn't thank you. Symbiotica's Shilajit is next level wellness, and honestly, you may never go back to drinking coffee. Click the link below down in the bio and get your Shilajit today. And I think this is also where perspective becomes so important, because when someone has been emotionally overwhelmed for a long time, it becomes very easy to focus only on what feels heavy. And it leads to those types of decisions, those big decisions, those life-altering decisions. So you can get lost in that, focusing on those things that feel heavy, what feels missing, what feels exhausting. And sometimes in the middle of carrying so much, we can slowly lose sight of the very things we once prayed for. The family, the children, the moments that at one time would have felt like answered prayers. And that doesn't mean that pressure isn't real, because it is. It is, right? Obstacles come up, pressures come up, stress comes up, all the things that lead you to that place of overwhelm and resentment. And it doesn't mean the needs shouldn't be addressed. They absolutely should. But sometimes before resentment hardens into disconnection, we need to pause long enough to remember, this is not me versus my marriage or my family or whatever it is that you're feeling. This is us trying to find each other again underneath the weight of life. And often that shift in perspective changes the way we begin to respond to each other. And this is where the conversation shifts, because this isn't about blame. It's not about men versus women. It's about how we're functioning as a team, because marriage was never designed to feel like one person is carrying everything. That's not how it was designed to be. I don't care what some people say. She needs to do everything, or even he needs to do everything. It's not the way it was designed. Right? It wasn't designed for one person to carry everything, while the other continues as if nothing has changed. That's not right either. Because at the same time all these things are going on, parenthood changes both roles for both people. You're not stepping into a temporary responsibility. You're stepping into a shared life. And the strongest families, and the ones that build something meaningful over time, those are the ones that learn how to adjust together, communicate clearly, sit in the boat together. We talk about this all the time. You don't get out of the boat. You're not going to swim away because the sharks will come eat you, right? You're not getting out of the car. You're staying in the car together. You're not going to get out of the car on the busy freeway. You're staying in the car together, right? You're going to figure out how to communicate clearly. I can't even say the word. I can. Don't say anything negative. Nothing negative. Ildiko. Communicate clearly. Support each other in ways that reflect the season that we're in, that our couples are in. Resentment is not something to ignore, okay? It's not. But it's also not something to build an identity around. It's a signal that something needs to be brought into the light. Not aggressively, right? Don't be aggressive about it. Try not to be too emotionally reactive about it. Just focus on being clear about it. Focus on expressing yourself and sharing that. And gentlemen, create a safe place to share. Women, create a safe place to share when he shares with us. Because what stays unspoken tends to grow. And what is brought forward with clarity that we just talked about can be resolved if we work through it together. So what does that look like? What can we implement today if we needed to? What are things that we can say? Well, it could look like this. I don't want this to build. I want to talk about it early. I want to talk about it early before it turns into something else. I've been carrying more than I realized, and I want to walk through it together now. We need to find a way to express clearly. So these are a few places that we can start, right? Those are great ways to bring it up. We can assure our partner that we don't need perfect partner. We don't need perfection. But we do need partnership. It doesn't need to be complicated. Just speak from the heart. Pray before you speak to each other. I prayed about this. And I want to have a conversation. Just honest communication before disconnection has time to grow. You want to get there before it turns into trouble, before it turns into danger. When it's expressed early, with clarity and intention, it's going to prevent accumulation. It prevents stories from forming where clarity should have existed. And what will that do? That's going to create space for alignment, support, and reconnection. Reconnection. That's what we want. And if there is resentment, if you are going through resentment right now, it doesn't necessarily mean something's broken. It just means something important has been sitting in the dark for too long, and we need to bring it to the light. So why don't you grab your pen and your journal or your pencil, and let's bring up some questions to ask ourselves. The first one, what have I been carrying that I haven't clearly expressed? It's time to share that. It's time to share that. It's time to bring these things into the light. Don't judge it, just write it down. Where have I been hoping something would change without communicating it? Write that down because you know exactly what you need. You know exactly what you want. You're just not communicating it. And there's nothing wrong with that because we can start today. What would it look like to bring this forward calmly and clearly? Remember, pray before you have these conversations. I feel like that's one of the most powerful things our couples can do when there's something deep going on inside, so that we could come together in a loving way to express these things. Don't let it turn into animosity. Don't let it turn into something that it doesn't need to turn into, that could harm our marriage, that can actually chip away at it. And it's good to get to these things early. And if it has been sitting there, it's time to work on it now. Don't let it sit there any longer. Let's come together in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of family, for the blessings of motherhood, blessings of fatherhood, and for the people you have entrusted in our care. Help us recognize what may be building beneath the surface before distance begins to grow. Give us the wisdom to communicate with honesty, the humility to listen with understanding, the gentleness to respond with love. Teach us to lead our homes with gratitude instead of assumption, with unity instead of division, and with hearts that remain soft toward one another, even in difficult seasons. And for every mother listening today, strengthen her, encourage her, remind her that her love, her sacrifices, and her presence matter deeply. Help us never lose sight of the blessings we once prayed for, even while walking with the weight of responsibility. Strengthen our marriages, protect our families, and help our homes become places of peace, safety, gratitude, and connection. In Jesus' name, amen. And with Mother's Day here, I think it's important that we pause for a moment and truly acknowledge what motherhood asks of a woman. Not just emotionally, but physically too. Pregnancy, birth, recovery, hormonal shifts, exhaustion, the invisible mental load so many women carry quietly every single day. And yet so many mothers continue showing up with extraordinary love and strength while healing in ways most people never fully see. And somewhere in the middle of all that, there is also something deeply beautiful happening. The way motherhood softens a woman, it deepens her, expands her capacity to love. It sure does. The tenderness, the sacrifice, the fierce protectiveness, the quiet strength children feel every single day in her presence. We're their safe place. We're our children's safe place, no matter what we're going through. What a blessing we are to them, and them to us, our children. There is a beauty in motherhood that goes far beyond appearance, a kind of beauty rooted in love, nurturing, devotion, and selflessness. Right? We become selfless when we become mothers. And it deserves to be noticed and spoken about, to be honored openly. So to the husbands listening, love the mother of your children well. Honor her openly. Speak life into her. I know our community is so good at this. And if you haven't, you can start today. Notice her. Appreciate her. Let your children see gratitude expressed clearly. Because to a child, their mother is not simply mom or mama. My children call me mama. She's comfort. She's present. She's safety. She is home. She's home to those little ones. And the most meaningful things children can witness, the most important thing, is a father who deeply honors the woman who carried them. Because the way a father loves a child's mother, it quietly shapes the emotional environment that a child grows inside of. It influences how secure they feel, how connected they feel, how they learn to experience love, trust, stability, all the things. When children consistently experience warmth, affection, respect, and emotional security within the home, it profoundly impacts their confidence, emotional health, relationships, and future well-being. It indicates their success in life. So never underestimate what your children are absorbing when they watch the way you love each other. If something in this conversation stood out to you, that's awareness. And that's where change begins. Not overnight, but one honest conversation at a time. A moment of clarity. Make the decision to reconnect instead of withdraw. Resentment doesn't begin with one moment. It builds through what goes unspoken. And healing begins when we finally bring those things into the light. If this episode spoke to your heart, resonated with you, leave a kind review and 5 stars, 5 golden stars, as Daniel and Destiny would say, so more families can find these conversations. I know we're speaking primarily to the parents, but when you do the work, the whole family feels it. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, please share this episode with them, because sometimes one honest conversation can change the direction of an entire family. And don't forget to listen as a family to the Entrepreneur Kids Legacy Show with Daniel and Destiny. They're working so hard creating faith-filled leadership content through a screen-free platform, their podcast, conversations about leadership for young leaders of tomorrow, courage and all the good things that our families want to lean into. And if you want to help sponsor a show, you can do that at buymeacoffee.com/entrepreneurkids. Thank you from Daniel and Destiny in advance. We're so grateful for that. The conversation you bring into the light today has the power to restore connection tomorrow. Don't forget that. Even if resentment has been eating at you, or you got lost in it, it's never too late to work through it as a couple, okay? Just know that. It's never too late. God bless you all. Glory to God always. We love you. See you soon. This is Becoming Unshakable.
Thank you, beautiful friends, for listening to this important message from Mama. Share with someone you love and care about. Oh, and we'd love to personally invite you to listen to our podcast. It's for young future leaders ready to change the world and be a light in the dark. Listen together as a family. It's called the Entrepreneur Kids Legacy Show. We know you'll love it. Be bold, be kind, build an unforgettable family legacy. God bless you, we love you. And parents, if no one told you yet, let us be the first. You're doing a remarkable job. And remember, you are the hero of your story, because every legacy begins with a hero, and that hero is you.
This podcast is for inspirational and educational purposes only, and it is not intended to replace professional advice, legal advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The views expressed are based on personal experience and faith-based insight and are meant to encourage reflection and growth. Always seek the guidance of qualified professionals regarding any questions or concerns you may have about your health, relationships, or business.